Good afternoon. I would like to thank the American Correctional Association for having me here today. I would like for you all to look at this picture. It's a picture of my family and I at my brother's wedding, and it was an important day. Now, I would like for you all to think about your family and your family events and your family pictures. Then I would like for you to focus your attention on this gentleman at the center. His name is Stanley Rice. He was wrongfully convicted for the crime of sexually assaulting a woman. He confessed to this crime after being beaten by several police officers. He was sentenced to a 100-year sentence and has been incarcerated for the past 30 years. He was wrongfully torn from his family and missed many important moments in his life, including the birth of his grandchildren. There was never any evidence linking Rice to this crime. This confession only came after hours of torture from officers of the Chicago Police Department, in particular, Lieutenant John Burge. Lieutenant John Burge was convicted in 2010 for lying in a civil suit and was linked to wrongful incarceration of many men, the majority of whom are black. I'm here today to discuss the relationship between race and incarceration. There is a very real and direct correlation between these two issues. Incarceration in many cases is influenced by race, and in particular for the black male population. First, I will share some statistics and demographics reflecting the percentage of adults that are incarcerated in the United States. Next, I will discuss how incarceration has been justified as punishment and how race and white privilege have influenced the demographics of incarceration. Third, I will illustrate the relationship between poverty and incarceration. And finally, I will discuss whether incarceration should be our standard form of punishment, how this affects us both positively and negatively, and the amount of fairness seen in our justice system. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, at the end of 2012, an approximated 937,600 offenders are currently serving a sentence in the U.S. correctional system. Of these offenders, about 1 in every 35 adults were on probation or on parole or incarcerated in jail or prison. Of those that are incarcerated, according to Stevenson, people of color amount for approximately 60% of those that are imprisoned. 1 in every 15 inmates are African American men. 1 in every 36 are Hispanic men. And finally, 1 in every 106 are white. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 1 in 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. And during routine traffic stops, black and Hispanic people are 3 times more likely to be searched. Also, African Americans are twice as likely to be arrested and 4 times as likely to encounter the use of force by police officers. Incarceration has been seen as a standard form of punishment in the United States since the birth of our nation. Incarceration has been justified as a punishment for many crimes, including violent crimes, property crimes, drug-related crimes, gang-related crimes, and now including hate crimes, cyber crimes, identity theft, and illegal weapon use. Although the crime rates have dropped, according to a study by Maurer and Young, the rate of incarcerations continue to rise. The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. And sadly, as I stated earlier, 50 to 60% of all young men of color are in jail or imprisoned, on probation or on parole in major urban areas, some including Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington. According to Cloward and Ullen's relative opportunity structure theory, which is an expansion of Merton's strain theory, criminality is dependent not only on the lack of legitimate opportunity, but also on the presence of illegitimate opportunity. Due to the cultural norms that races of color engage in deviant behavior, legitimate means of access have been denied to them. Without legitimate means to reach goals, crime is committed. For example, students of color often face harsher punishments in school than their white peers, which has led to a higher number of youth of color that are incarcerated. According to Sophia Kirby, Black and Hispanic students represent more than 70% of those involved in school-related arrests or referrals to law enforcement. White privilege is also a very real issue that is affecting the Department of Education. Kirby further noted that African American students are arrested far more often than their white classmates. Black and Hispanic students have experienced harsher punishments than their white classmates, which has led to higher numbers of youth of color coming into contact with the juvenile justice system at a very young age. In the war on drugs, rates of drug use and selling are generally equal across all racial lines, but people of color are more likely to be stopped, searched, arrested, prosecuted, convicted, and ultimately incarcerated for drug law violations. Unfortunately, African Americans serve almost as much time in federal prison for a drug offense as whites do for a more serious violent offense. Mass incarceration that is seen in the United States has significantly increased poverty. Many offenders find it difficult to transition back into life outside of prison and are often denied jobs due to their criminal record. Former criminals are denied licenses and permits that are required to keep their jobs, and often the effect of incarceration extends to the families and to the spouses of those that are imprisoned. Spouses and partners often have difficult times getting jobs, maintaining jobs, and usually due to the logistical difficulties of being in a relationship with someone that is incarcerated. Many spouses are left alone to shoulder the financial burdens of life. Poverty is a direct effect of imprisonment and will continue to rise as the rate of incarceration also increases. Finally, I believe that incarceration should not be our standard form of punishment. From a strictly monetary aspect, an estimated $30,000 per year is spent on each inmate. I would think it would be better, and I believe it would be better, to utilize a portion of that money to invest in crime prevention programs such as the Ford Foundation's Quantum Opportunity Program for high-risk youth or the National Crime Prevention Association. Both of these programs have decreased crime rates at a national and local level. I believe that prevention and education are key elements to decreasing our crime and incarceration rates. I do realize that the negative stigma that racial minorities often commit crimes, and the majority of crimes is still present. As an individual, it is important that you and I reshape our sociological perspective. We must realize that crime is prevalent across all racial lines and that minorities are often given a harsher, unfair form of punishment than those offenders that are not minorities or white. We must be aware that the wrongful accusations and imprisonment occurs strictly because of race and social stigma. I challenge you to get involved first by becoming more aware of the negative social norms that you may have come to accept and become accountable to practicing fairness and equality. And finally, by advocating for those that are victims of wrongful accusations and conviction. I know some negative effects may be in the difficulty of changing the sociological view of those that are around you, the stigma of those that are already in authority, such as police officers, mayors, or people that are in government, and possibly monetary constraints, as we know that budget and money has often become short. I believe that the positive effects are a more equal view of races and criminal activity, which will result in fairness in the justice system, a decreased crime rate, and increased crime prevention. Families will be strengthened through crime prevention programs, and rehabilitation and transition for former criminals will become easier. To be aware of these forms of injustice will help us all transform our sociological view of the world and will change the lives of many individuals. Thank you.